We've all seen GPU with 1 gigabyte, 2 gigabytes, 4 gigabytes, even 32 gigabytes of VRAM. But somehow, there's a graphics card that was made with 1.5 gigabytes of VRAM. Yeah, 1.5. And at that point, you really have to ask, did someone mess up the math? So what GPU is this? And more importantly, what games can you actually play with 1.5 gigabytes of VRAM in 2026? There's only one way to find out. Let's unbox this thing, and here it is, the GT 645. The moment you see the letters GT, you already have a pretty good idea of what kind of performance to expect. That's right, this is an older NVIDIA graphics card, originally designed to give desktop PC a small graphics boost over integrated graphics. Now the question is, does it still have any place in modern gaming? So first off, why do I even have this thing? If you try searching on eBay or pretty much any major marketplace, you won't find this GPU at all. A 1.5 gigabyte VRAM card is basically non-existent online. I actually picked this one up from a guy on Facebook Marketplace for 20 bucks. Now let's talk about its age, because yeah, this thing is old. It launched back in 2013, which means it's about 13 years old now. Honestly, it's probably older than some people watching this video. And even though it's technically just a GT class GPU, the design tells a different story. At first glance, it doesn't look like some low-end display adapter at all. The cooler, the shroud, it actually looks like something that wanted to be a gaming GPU back in the day. So yeah, on paper, it's weak, it's ancient, and it has a very weird amount of VRAM. But that's exactly why it's interesting, and why I had to test it. When I first got it, nothing really stood out, except for one thing. The fan was packed with dust and the plastic shroud had a bunch of scratches. Clearly, this card had seen some serious use. This is a Zotac card, and it's basically designed after NVIDIA Founders Edition. The whole exterior is plastic, and the front design is super simple, clearly a cost-cutting move. Unfortunately, there's no backplate, so all the capacitors and the PCB are just exposed. The I/O shield, though, actually looks pretty clean, which surprised me. What really worried me was the output situation. Only one HDMI port was marked OK, while the others weren't. That immediately raised a red flag, so I didn't waste any time. I had to test it right away. Good news, after checking all the display outputs, every single port worked fine. No dead outputs, no weird signal issues. I fired up GPU-Z, and sure enough, it was exactly what the seller claimed. A GeForce GT 645, rocking 1.5 gigabytes of GDDR5 VRAM. So, at least on a basic level, this thing was alive and fully functional. So let's take a quick moment to talk about why this GPU has such a weird amount of VRAM. Back around 2012, games were starting to ask for more than 1 gigabyte of VRAM, and at the same time, people were judging GPU performance by one simple number: how much VRAM it had. More VRAM on the box just made the card easier to sell. Bigger number, better GPU. At least that's what everyone thought back then. Now from a technical standpoint, this card uses a 192-bit memory bus. Each memory channel is 64-bit, so quick math, 192 means 3 memory channels. Each memory chip is 512 megabytes, and 3 of those gives you 1.5 gigabytes of VRAM. That's actually a clean, proper number from an engineering point of view. If they wanted to go up to 2 gigabytes, they'd need 4 memory channels, which means a 256-bit bus, and that would increase costs quite a bit. For basically no real performance gain, because let's be honest, this GPU just isn't strong enough to take advantage of that extra VRAM anyway. So yeah, 1.5 gigabytes wasn't random. It was cheaper to make, easier to market, and just enough to look good on the spec sheet. Now, the good news is this GPU does output a display, and the drivers install perfectly fine. The bad news? Temperatures. After about 5 minutes at full load, this card shoots up to over 90 degrees Celsius, and the noise it makes is so loud I'm pretty sure the neighbors could hear it. My guess is that no one has cleaned this thing in about 13 years, so yeah, it was definitely time. I decided to remove the plastic shroud and give it a proper clean. I'm not taking off the heatsink itself though, because the card still has a warranty sticker. If I break that seal, there's no return and no refund if something goes wrong. And yep, as expected, the fan blades were completely packed with dust. Honestly, after cleaning this, I feel like I should probably go get my lungs checked. After putting everything back together, the results honestly surprised me. The temperature dropped all the way down to around 56 degrees, which is a massive improvement compared to before. For testing, I'm using my main setup as the test bench. Let's start with Heaven Benchmark, running at 1080p medium settings. Surprisingly, this GPU can almost hit the magic number. It peaks at around 58 frames per second, which is pretty close to ideal. The lows, though, yeah, those dip all the way down to 7 frames per second. Let's just say the frame graph looks like a roller coaster. I also tried testing Cyberpunk 2077 and in Elden Ring, and let's be honest, those games did not vibe with this GPU at all. They basically took one look at it and said, yeah, no. So instead, let's move on to a game this card can actually handle. In CS2, running at low settings, this GPU honestly impressed me. It manages to hold a solid 60 frames per second in pretty much every situation. And hey, for a 13-year-old GPU, that's not bad at all. That said, it's already using almost all of its VRAM. So if you start cranking up the graphics, you'll hit VRAM limits real fast, and the FPS can drop hard. Moving on to an older AAA title, Tomb Raider, at 1080p, the GPU delivers around 70 frames per second. Since this game doesn't demand super high frame rates, that performance is more than enough for a smooth and comfortable experience. Next up, The Witcher 3, a game that's still pretty demanding even today. I dropped the graphics all the way down to low, and at 1080p, I was only getting about 18 frames per second. Lowering the resolution to 720p bumps it up to around 30 frames per second, but during combat, the frame rate can still dip down to about 23. Is it ideal? Definitely not. But if you're just curious and want to try it, it's playable-ish. And finally, Minecraft as always. I tested it with Bliss shaders, and I'm just going to be honest, it's rough. Flying around up high, the FPS drops to around 10 frames per second. Dropping the resolution to 720p helps a bit, but overall, it's still not impressive. So if shaders are your thing, yeah, this GPU is going to be very limiting. I actually had an idea for a video built entirely around this GPU. The plan was to use it as a secondary GPU and see how it performs with lossless scaling. My main GPU would be the RX 6600, and the GT 645 would be plugged in purely as a helper card. First, with lossless scaling turned off, the system was pushing around 170 frames per second, no problem at all. But once I turned the software on, the FPS didn't improve. In fact, it stayed the same or even dropped slightly. The image started to look soft and blurry, and the input lag just kept getting worse. Next, I tried switching things up. I connected the display output to the GT 645 while still setting the RX 6600 as the high-performance GPU in the game. Inside lossless scaling, I also prioritized the RX 6600. The result? Not great. Frames per second dropped to around 60, which is way lower than where we started. Then I tried increasing the scaling multiplier to 3, and that's when things really went off the rails. The screen started to look so distorted it felt like I was gaming after a few drinks. FPS went up slightly to about 70, but the input lag was massive. At that point, it was basically unplayable. Everything felt delayed, sluggish, and just plain uncomfortable to use. So why does this happen? The short answer is, lossless scaling doesn't use a secondary GPU to boost performance. It only runs on the GPU that's actually outputting the display. When you turn it on, the GPU has to do an extra scaling step, so instead of gaining frames per second, you often get the same performance, or even worse, plus more input lag. And when I route the display output through the GT 645, things get even worse. Now every frame rendered by the RX 6600 has to travel through a much weaker GPU, which creates PCIe and driver bottlenecks. The result? Lower frames per second, blurrier image, and noticeably higher latency. So in simple terms, a secondary GPU doesn't boost frames per second. It actually slows the whole system down. And that pretty much wraps things up for the GT 645. Even though it's 13 years old, it can still deliver surprisingly decent performance in light and mid-range games, as long as you stay away from VRAM-hungry AAA titles or DX12 heavy games. It's not powerful, but it's definitely still playable in 2025. What do you think about this GPU? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you guys in the next video.